Well, in just a couple of weeks, Australia will host the Australian Tennis Open in Melbourne. For reference, that is 2 states away from me and approximately 1,800 kilometres as the crow flies. If you want to know what that's in miles, work it out. Now, after landing from a COVID-infected plane, almost all of the players, coaches, support team, and even their partners have had to isolate for 14 days in hotel quarantine. I mean, imagine being a fit, strong, healthy athlete ready for some grueling on-court battles, having to be told that you have to be locked up for 14 days. Oh, and to add salt to the injury, the meals are bad, the Wi-Fi signal is weak. Yulia Putintseva filmed a mouse in her hotel room, and Bernard Tomic...
I thought I'd be super happy, and I thought this way of coming and obviously camping for the first time, I thought like being around you people, I could, a bit of the time, half the time during the day, I'm just depressed, I'm thinking, I've never really had time to think about my thoughts. I'd always have people around, I had my mobile phone, my life was so fast-paced. And when everything's slowed down the last 3 or 4 days, I don't want to spend half my time depressed here, and thinking about, how I played the last year and where I should be. So it's kind of my fault. It's my fault for being so isolated in my career and being so individual and not having the opportunity to grow up and do these sort of things.
And Bernard Tomic's girlfriend, Vanessa Sierra, complained that she had to use the same toilet as Tomic and that she now has to wash her own hair in quarantine. Bragger, at least she has hair. Yes, you heard me, she now has to wash her own hair. Have a listen to how entitled and pathetic this snowflake goes on about how tough it is in hotel quarantine. Take a look.
I'll give you guys a little tour of my casa quarantine. Does that even make sense? I swear I'm going crazy. It's day 3. This is our view. I'm literally only keeping it open for the vlog. We usually have it. The other day there was media outside taking random photos of us, which is kind of weird because this is a bedroom and they were sitting there with a camera. So we're not allowed daylight anymore because of this. They don't clean the room. I don't think we get fresh sheets, which is kind of gross because it's like 2 weeks in this hotel room. Also, there is only one bathroom. I have never pooped in front of Bernard. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's day 3. I just can't do it in front of him. It's not part of the, I haven't broken that barrier in the relationship yet, and I hope I don't have to. I played Pokemon for 11 hours straight yesterday and I think 12 hours straight the day before. Guess I'll be sitting here and feel, oh God, my hair. This is the worst part of quarantine. I don't wash my own hair. I don't wash my own hair. I don't wash my own hair. I've never washed my own hair. It's just not something that I do.
It's just not something that I do.
It's just not something that I do. I normally have hairdressers that do it twice a week for me. So this is the situation that we're dealing with. Yeah, I can't wait to get out of quarantine just so I can get my hair done.
Now, the Twitter sphere, YouTube, and if you were still allowed on social media, had comments to make. And some of those comments included, like this from Diana Silva, the struggle. Hang on, I've got to put the right inflection. Oh, the struggle. The struggle. These pretzels are making me thirsty. And this from Gerald Pauschmann. You guys are just the best. I just love your content. Just out of curiosity, are you doing okay? I was hoping for a reply. She didn't reply. Anyway, I digress. The 72 tennis players who are in the tournaments are already tired of it. In misery, Pablo Cuevas put his mattress upright against the front door, took the racket and ball from his bag, and practiced his backhand. He should have practiced his backhand on Tomic's girlfriend. I'm so going to get demonetized again. Others simply used the wall, the window, or a closet. Hang on, slow down. But what was the reason that the Victorian government, led by Chairman Dan, had to ensure that the Australian Open should go ahead? I want you to have a listen to the arrogance and lack of knowledge that the Premier of Victoria, Dan Andrews, has. Seriously, it's like a Monty Python skit. Take a look.
If the Australian Open does not happen in Melbourne, it will happen somewhere else. It'll happen in Japan. It'll happen in China. It'll happen in Singapore. And the real risk then is it doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back. So an event that underpins tens of thousands of jobs is a major part of our major events agenda, which in total terms supports more than 250,000 Victorian jobs. Not to mention the fact that we, all of us, as taxpayers, have built a facility that is second to none at roughly at about $1.5 billion worth of investment over a 10-year period. This event is very important to our city and our state.
Now I want you to watch and listen to how he responds, and especially how red in the face he gets when he's questioned by a person who actually has some knowledge about the tennis and challenges him on his so-called logic. Take a look.
We're having a major event that if we don't have it, well, somebody else will, and it won't be coming back.
Who told you that?
And I've made that, well, logic tells you that.
Well, logic tells you that.
No, what credible tennis person suggested that we're at risk of losing the Australian Open as a Grand Slam event?
I've had many different discussions with many different people.
Who's one?
Well, I'm not going into the private discussions that I have with people, Chip, and I'm not also going to. If I say to you that my logic tells me this, well, then that answers your question.
There's just no one that I can find in tennis that agrees that Melbourne's at risk of losing the Australian Open as a Grand Slam.
Well, again, let me just go back through this. I've done it a few times. I'll do it again. The Grand Slam status of this tournament is not part of the contract.
Seriously, you numbnut? It's not a contract. It's based on the Grand Slam set in stone by the International Tennis Federation back in 1924, being London, Paris, New York and Melbourne. It was tennis legend Jack Crawford who won Wimbledon, then the French, and then the Australian Championships, then went over to the US and won 12 matches in a row. And it was there that it was written that the 4 majors of those countries are going to be known as the Grand Slam. Give me a break. There's logic for you. This actually made me think about the airline that all those tennis players and crew were travelling on. I mean, why is that so important, G-Mann? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, I'm not sure that you know this, but flight attendants in China have been urged to wear disposable nappies to avoid aeroplane bathrooms as part of the effort to stop the spread of COVID-19, according to the guidelines issued by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, CAC. The notice reads, "It is recommended that cabin crew members wear disposable nappies and avoid using the lavatories, barring special circumstances to avoid infection risks." Barring special circumstances, what the hell constitutes a special circumstance? Can you imagine the pilots, the cabin crew, flight attendants, all eating the same food as us plebs, with a voice over the intercom announcing, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For lunch today, we'll be serving a rubbery meal." So then she goes into the cockpit and Captain Something Wong and First Officer Holy Fuck ate the meal and now have an upset stomach from eating a rancid bat. Is that a special circumstance? Oh, hang on, it's just the flight attendants. As you were. The recommendation came alongside rules for other standard personal protective equipment or PPE like masks, gloves and goggles. Those rules echoed those issued by the US Centre for Disease Control, the CDC, which also call for flight crew to wear disposable gloves and face masks. I'm waiting for the part when they say nappies. The CDC guidelines including details on how to thoroughly scrub an aeroplane after each flight and how to get rid of protective gear without spreading the virus. It says, after use, PPE must be carefully removed to avoid contaminating your skin or clothing. Fair enough. Now, in October last year, data showed the flight attendants and other airline workers had lower rates of COVID-19 infection. Airlines said at the time that it illustrated how effective PPE was. The US Association of Flight Attendants urged flight staff to wear a mask, wash hands frequently, and use all the safety tools at our disposal to remain healthy. In June, the union said face masks were essential for building customer trust. Where's the part about nappies? Ah, but the Chinese guidelines went a step further, however, saying that by wearing disposable nappies, cabin crew could avoid the usually tight aeroplane bathrooms. They said that the tiny spaces could be hotspots for the spread of coronavirus. I guess if they were having one of those hot and spicy meals, there could be a hotspot. The recommendations were meant for flight attendants in areas with especially high infection rates. Meanwhile, pilots and other members of the flight crew were asked to wear goggles and masks, but not nappies. Seriously, people, you cannot make this stuff up. Once again, thanks for all your well wishes. We're doing all fine. Rudy and I are doing great. And I want to thank you all for your support. But if you would like a bit of adventure in your life and want to live vicariously through a couple of old knuckleheads, then join Spook and I over at the Next Adventure Show, where we're all about motorcycles, adventure, mayhem, and the occasional fine whiskey. We would love your support. Now go away and wash your hair and change your nappies. I'm Gerald Pauschmann for The Point TV. Cheers, Rudy.